Thanks, Alex, for talking to Livewire here in Brisbane. I just wanted to
Thanks for having me.
say congratulations on the new album that's coming on the 20th of March, Ultra Dundee. I was going to ask you what made you or the band decide that now is the time to release a new album?
Um, I think we've been around 15 years, and every 3 years we've put out an album. So we usually finish the one before to start to get our shit together and start the process. And it just seems to take about, yeah, that process seems to take about 3 years.
I've got to say,
In
I
relation
really,
to this one, I guess I had been living in central Victoria, um, and then Ben and Ali were living in Adelaide, Miles and Dion in Melbourne, and I moved back to Adelaide, and that was probably the precursor to it because I set up my studio in a little spot in Theberton with Ali, who's an engineer, and then we had that space and could start working on songs together from there.
I've got to say, there's some fantastic songs on there. Shadowland is just amazing, and the
Oh,
Irish
cheers.
Airmen. Are you a big Yeats fan?
Uh, I wouldn't say I'm particularly well read in Yeats, but I did read that poem and it struck me. Um, and that's what was um, yeah, that was the inspiration for that song. And I actually recorded that with a producer called John Lee during COVID. Um, Ben and I at one stage were going to do a little side project, and I had some time in the studio. Ben couldn't come because he got Australian in Adelaide, and I worked with John Lee on that, and then um, we brought it back in for this album. But yeah, that Yeats poem really grabbed me, and that inspired that song. But it's a song that I couldn't really say. I don't really know what it's about in the end. It's a series of sort of images that came to me. Um, God crawled out of the bat is the first line, which was probably something to do with COVID at the time. Yeah.
It's an interesting analogy to the first wave of COVID. If you think about some of the colleagues that we had, if you compare them to people who were in World War II planes, it's a 96% death rate. I don't know about you, but I went back to university with my year group, and there's not a lot of people left.
Mm. Well, I
So
think in that poem, one thing I really like is the airman is the acceptance of his fate,
mm,
and there's a calmness about it, even though he is high up in the air, about to do battle and almost certainly
die.
die.
Mm.
There's a plaintiveness and calmness which I really related to, and then I think the song is about finding that in life, no matter the circumstances, whether it's a pandemic or I think the second stanza talks about refers to a woman who's being being restrained by the white coats, an old man burying his dog, the stillness and calmness that you can find despite circumstances. And part of that is accepting one's fate, and almost finding the beauty in the acceptance of what the universe brings. I think that's probably what I was trying to capture there.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? As you get older, you look at life a lot differently. What you would have been angry about. I mean, I was listening to your back catalogue with Piss Christ. I'm scared of the USA. What as I am now.
Yeah.
Waterfalls, that wonderful line in there about tyrants, having to go. How do you go from that punk scene to what you're writing now? Or is it still the same?
Someone asked this the other day, and yeah, about some of those songs that have that anger in them. And I think I have been, well, I and the band have been angry at the hypocrisy we see around us, and um, certain parts of the way society works that we feel is unjust or unfair. I went through an interesting process over the time between these two albums myself. I did a lot of Jungian therapy, actually. I found a really good therapist that lived near me. So personally, that was my journey, that I maybe understanding where that anger, a lot of it was at institutions, and figures that lead institutions. And when I explored that, you find actually, I think there's always going to be those type of systems that are going to be imperfect, but learning where the response to them comes from within yourself
Learning how to
can help.
navigate them, I think.
Learning how to navigate them, and discovering why I found those particular things so triggering.
Yeah, some of them are
Then
egregious. It's awful.
And then for me, that goes back to things in my childhood which I hadn't really been aware of before. So, but I still think there's time. I think rock and roll, and rock and roll is always a good vehicle to point out those things which people need attention paid to.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to get a message across, and it's a leveler as well. It doesn't take status into consideration at all. Like, it levels almost the playing ground in a way.
Yeah, and I think
People,
the essence of rock and roll has always been the outsider, whether it's starting from its roots in African American people, through to Elvis and Dylan and the Stones. They were outside the status quo, at least when they started.
yeah,
And I
that's when
think
they
that's something
started.
about, which is hard as rock and roll, as you as you get older, then you become the status quo, which is the struggle that I think everyone faces if you still, you start off as a punk and an outsider, and then if you've been doing it for more than 10 years like we have, it's like, oh, where do we place ourselves now? Because there's always, the younger people are coming up from behind, and they're doing something almost in response to what you've done. That's the
Yeah,
eternal question of the aging creative or rocker, I guess. But I think there's plenty of people who have navigated that well.
yeah, there are, and there's lots of people who've been like even more successful as they've got older,
Yeah,
at finding that level of truth in things, like seeing through the bullshit is where you want to go. And
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, that's exactly right, and it's interesting to see the way that really good creators have done that. Whether it's someone like Dylan or Bowie, how they've become an outsider to their early work, or done certain things to throw themselves into conflict
I
to
think it's
to
being
create the environment.
it's like being self-aware, like knowing
Yes.
that, I mean, I think for like someone like Bowie must have realized, like, goes, my God, I'm a baby boomer, how do I shake that? Because he did. I
Yeah.
think he did it, and he did it really well. I think out of all the people he has in the musical kennel, he has been the one who's been able to shake the tree. Every time he's gone out, there's been something new or different,
Yep.
or something he's wanted to say. He's had. I think it's when you lose that urge to have something to say. I mean, I know from my job, you're not allowed to have an opinion, so that makes life very difficult. But they can't
Yeah.
take that away from you outside. Well, they can actually. They can threaten you, but you like that security clearance? Yes, I do. Then shut up. But I was going to ask about touring. So you're hitting the road. You're going to be playing Melbourne, Sydney, and you're coming up into the bright side. And you're
Yep.
doing the Gather Sounds, which sounds like a fantastic idea. The songs on the album that I've heard so far are going to be great for that event. So you're looking forward to doing that?
Yeah, I think we're really looking forward to this tour, especially because we know that it could be the last shows we'll do for a very long time. And yeah, Adelaide, always, we're from there. It's always special for us to play there. People really um, understand the band and have been so supportive of us in Adelaide. And the setting of that festival in the university cloisters there is an awesome place, right next to the Torrens. And yeah, it's a nice coincidence that we could do it at the same time as Gather Round, which is a pretty big event for the city. I guess it's a bit of a full circle moment given the band did start ostensibly at a football club, um, and to do it then. So it does combine our love of football or a history from football and the music.
I must ask, it wasn't Port Adelaide, was it? You went down in Port Adelaide?
No, I can't. We are at a much more genteel football club than that. However, Ben the singer's a Port Adelaide supporter. I'm a
That's
Crows supporter.
okay.
But we were
One of my
yeah.
old bosses, like, Port Adelaide was like talking about
Oh
a
yeah,
hallowed
they're an
place.
amazing club in Adelaide. I think before they joined the AFL, they'd won something like on average, one in every three premierships, and they were the team from the wharfs, proudly working class, and yeah, quite formidable. I mean, you either love Port Adelaide or you hate them, when you come from South Australia. It's changed a bit now that they're in the AFL, but certainly growing up, you Port Adelaide was an anathema to my family, but you also have to have respect for them because they were such a amazing club.
Yes, this person once said to me, "No prime minister scares me." I grew up and played for Port Adelaide. Went,
Yeah,
okay.
no,
So I guess that comes to the bit about what's happening with the band next.
well, we're taking a break. We feel as a band somehow it's been going for 15 years, which is amazing, which seems to have just happened in the blink of an eye, really. And we've made the decision to put it on ice, because we do, we want to leave the body of work that we've made over the past 15 years to rest. And yeah, we don't want to run it into the ground, really. It is hard to do to the level that we want it to, with everyone having their jobs and families. So it's not an easy decision to make, but I think it's the right one to let it rest and give everyone some space for other things.